Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the Dealing with Anxiety, Stress, and Self-Care During the Pandemic Expert Q&A. We would like to thank all of you for attending, and we're really happy to have you. A special thanks to Suresh sir, Uma, and Harmeet for being with us here today as panelists and offering their insights. My name is Aaryani Sahay,
And I am Kashish Singh.
and we will be your moderators for today. So let us start by telling you a bit about ourselves and our project.
We are 11th graders in the International School of Bangalore, and we are also co-founders of Project Let's Talk, which we started about 2.5 years ago when we saw an apparent need for mental health awareness in our own school. Now we conduct interactive awareness sessions in government schools and private schools alike. And as of today, with the help of more than 80 volunteers, we've conducted more than 100 awareness sessions and impacted over 3,000 lives. Project Let's Talk has also been presented at the UN headquarters in New York City. And today about our agenda, we have 6 different panels that the questions are sorted into. We have anxiety, stress, communication, self-care, positivity, and productivity. And Arnie will explain more about this.
So it was great to see that we received over 100 questions submitted. We have gone over the questions and we have selected the great ones that we think everyone has on their minds right now. So that will be answered in this session. With that, we will also have live Q&A. So you can submit your questions in the Q&A box. We will be checking that regularly in each panel and selecting some to answer throughout this webinar. Mental health is a really important topic right now. We have to deal with the anxiety over the future, staying at home for prolonged periods of time, and social distancing. It's of the utmost importance that we take care of ourselves. And let's learn how to do that in this webinar. So without further ado, let's introduce the panelists.
Our first panelist is Uma Arun, a transformation life coach and a certified neurolinguistic programming practitioner and cognitive behavioral therapist. Uma, would you like to take over?
Thank you so much, Kashish. I'm so glad to be part of Project Let's Talk. That was such a lovely introduction. So just to add to that, I'm passionate about helping people redesign their lives and unlock their true potential. And my enriched experience as an entrepreneur for more than 2 decades, as a facilitator, trainer, a parent of 3 adult kids, all that adds value to my coaching. And to be able to make an impactful, transformative difference in this world is the vision that I strive towards. Thanks.
Our next panelist is Harmeet Kaur, CEO and co-founder of Fermata Career Counseling and Training. She is an educator and a career counselor from UCLA with over 20 years of experience. Harmeet, would you like to take over?
Right, thank you so much. I'm happy and proud to be part of this project Let's Talk. I started my journey as an educator, but was still on a search of finding my own purpose. And that purpose I found when I started my career counseling vertical in the organization. And with the experience of working as a consultant, as a trainer, as an educator, I try to guide, design, and redesign the careers of these young adults with whom I'm passionate to work and guide them to look into how you can find your inner passion. And that's how I decided that I would work with 13 to 30 years old to shape their career. Thank you so much.
It's great to have you on board, Harmeet. Our third panelist is Suresh Thiagarajan, co-founder of Fermata Career Counseling and Training and a specialist in life skills education with over 30 years of experience. Sir, would you like to take over?
Yeah, thank you, Project Let's Talk team, for giving this opportunity. Good evening to all. And after a challenging career of 30 years across public sector, private sector, software IT companies, I felt enough was enough. Now I am on a journey of coaching and mentoring young professionals and also teaching project management life skills to university faculty members and students. So this is a nice journey to take up for the past 10 years. I'm happy to hear. Thank you.
Great to have you. So let's get straight to it. Anxiety is a very relevant topic right now. especially because we are at home for prolonged periods of time. The future is uncertain, and there's lots of factors that can make us anxious. Uma, can you start by telling us what is the difference between feeling the emotion of anxiety and having anxiety disorder, and the coping strategies for each?
Yeah, so you were very right in saying that it's so relevant, anxiety in certain times. And I believe to answer your question in parts won't be doing justice to it, but I'll try to integrate everything. So anxiety, by definition, is a feeling of apprehension and fear of what might happen, and also assuming that it's likely to happen. It's more to do with pessimistic thoughts, the thoughts that are not facts. Anxiety is also a response to the stress which is associated with emotions like distress, tensions, worriness. And just to tell you, it's actually a part of everyone's experience. So now when this anxiety becomes severe and it starts to interfere in your day-to-day tasks and also in your ability to connect socially, it becomes a medical condition which we call as anxiety disorder. Now, in anxiety disorder, in this case, the person may feel threatened. They may get panic attacks. They would be overwhelmed. They could have lack of focus and suffer from insomnia. And most of the cases, anxiety, there is a high possibility that it can lead to depression. So in case there is chronic anxiety disorder, it's very advisable to seek professional help. Now, coming to your second part of the question about how to cope with it, it's as a CBT practitioner, I can encourage you to adopt some anti-anxiety attitudes. And some of the helpful practices can be to be realistic about the actual probability of the negative event. It's like instead of really saying, oh, this is how I imagine and it's really likely to happen like that, you can say it could happen, but not as likely as I imagine. So you being realistic about the actual probability. Learn to create perspective and mindfulness by identifying your trigger emotions, your fearful situations, and your physical symptoms. So I actually would like to stress on this that it's really important to identify these. So if I can share an example of an anxious thought. I've seen the youngsters talking this, so the example comes like that. I heard someone says, I'm dying to freak out. So that was a real anxious thought. Now I would suggest to take a pause and ask yourself, do I have enough information to freak out? Now take another pause and reflect and ask yourself again, will freaking out help? The answer would always be a no. So create perspective on your anxious thoughts. Next, I would suggest to be open to create a clutter-free emotional space. Anxiety feeds on itself. So anxiety will escalate, feeding on itself. So when you are into a clutter-free emotional space, that calmness quietens your mind to think, to feel, to dream, and question with enough sanity. And I would also highly encourage you to go on an anxiety detox. When I say that, I will give just a few examples. Just try to connect with nature, just a little walk, play with your pets if you have any. You can play with your children, exercise, sleep well, laugh, it helps, and spend time with your loved ones. These are some versions of anxiety detox. And try to build a high tolerance philosophy. This comes from, this is a scientific research which says build on a high tolerance philosophy, which says by some positive affirmations. I can give you a few examples. You can affirm to yourself, having these sensations can be extremely unpleasant, but I can tolerate and cope with them. That could be one. And the second affirmation comes from watching the young adults who think that these people are weird. So please tell yourself, I'm not weird, just a normal person having a problem with anxiety, and people are concerned and compassionate towards me. So this starts building up your tolerance towards anxiety. And as your practice becomes stronger, anxiety will start losing its stronghold over you. So that's it from me. Thanks.
Very informative. Thank you for explaining the differences and the importance of being realistic and mindfulness. Now, right now, I think a lot of people are feeling anxiety because we don't know when this pandemic will end. So, in the context of coronavirus, how can we deal with those anxious thoughts? Just a quick word.
In the context of coronavirus, I think it'll become a pretty repetitive thing, but yes, you should learn to focus on what you can control. Don't try to focus on anything which is out of your control. What is in your circle of influence is your own emotions, your own schedules. Those are the ones which are in your control. So just try to focus on those. And the rest, definitely everybody is equally uncertain the way you are, I am. And yes, you need to really take care. Self-care is very important. So take care of yourself, do some meditation, do exercises, have nutritious diet. All those things are extremely important. And learn to manage your emotions, which is, like I said, an extremely important thing to calm down your anxiety. You also need to know that this is not going to last forever. But yes, whatever it is right now, take that as an opportunity. If you reframe your thoughts, which are very negative and pessimistic right now, if you try to just shift your perspective towards something more positive, it will really help.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to the next panel, which is stress. Right now, a lot of things are stressing everyone out, from working from home to exams to the pandemic. So, Suresh, can you answer this question? How can people manage stress and derive better results at work or at school right now?
Okay. So we always prefer stress to be like a feather on your head. And there is a famous Tamil classical literature, Tirukkural, and the author of it is Thiruvalluvar. Way back 2000, 3000 years back, he has written a couplet, 2 lines poem, where he says, even a feather, if loaded on a cart uncontrollably, the cart also breaks down. So there is a need for the amount of stress that we can take, and that is where stress management comes in. The typical thing, I think Uma also talked about logging, keeping a track of what triggers the anxiety. So similarly, you need to keep a log of what triggers the stress in you. And that helps you to attack the stress in the right way. You will not feel helpless. There are 2 ways of doing it. One is totally avoiding it. These are all through preventive measures. For example, you can change your eating habits. I mean, we as Telugu family, we eat a lot of hot stuffs. So maybe that makes us trigger happy people. But that may not suit to the people who are really stressed. So you need to change the way you eat. Okay, and also do exercises regularly, including meditation. And also, the most important thing about stress management prevention is planning your activities. You need to be well organized. That creates a lot of stress if you are not organized. Okay. Now coming to the adjustment part, where things are not controllable, you need to adjust with them. It's like adjusting a seat in the bus or a train. You need to go along with the passengers. You can't have your own domain. That could happen by way of listening to music, dipping your feet in a warm water, going out for a small walk, sharing with the loved ones your thoughts. So these are all some stop gaps that you can take up. Overall, stress is required, but not to a large quantum, which you cannot bear.
Very true. Self-awareness is essential. Loved your tip about keeping a stress log.
Our next question is for Harmeet. Harmeet, what do you think are the challenges and how do you handle the challenges that come from working and studying from home as opposed to in office or at school?
Yeah. So yes, working from home has definitely created challenges, and and these challenges are one in the learning style, and secondly, taking away the group learning, and that definitely creates stress. Now, there are two measures or two possible remedies that or techniques that can be worked out. One is looking into our own routine. Are we maintaining the same routine while we are working from home? That means sleeping early and waking up early. Now, a lot of working professionals and during this time are coming to me because of imbalance, mental imbalance, or not able to sleep, where Uma said that actually leading to anxiety, wherein they are actually started facing insomnia. And why is that so? Because since they don't have a pressure to go for work tomorrow, they are awake all night with their friends or watching movies, and that is not keeping their body into that routine that I have to sleep and then I have to wake up in the morning for work. So that's one way, that maintaining your routine, which is a discipline, more working towards the habit. And secondly is to look at one's own learning style. What happens as individuals and as human beings, we have three learning styles: visual, kinesthetic, and auditory. And we all learn through all the three mediums, but in each one of us, one style would be dominating. And that's why if we look at in schools, few of the schools teach the children in all the three mediums. Experiments are done around the topic, videos are played around the topic, and there is definitely the book around that topic. So this helps the child to grasp in all the three mediums and understand that. Now, that may not be happening because of working from home. So in that case, what can be done is you can build that communication channel both with your parent and your teacher that I am not able to understand. And build that channel and say, what are the other ways I can learn? Which means one of the ways is missing. And as with respect to office, you can say that you have to look into what are the ways that you're missing and how you can work better. It's again looking inside and becoming aware. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Routine is so important right now, especially because there's no one holding us accountable. Some excellent tips. So now we will move on to communication. It's essential that we know how to communicate, especially because we're at home, we are far from people that we love, so we need to keep ourselves connected. And while being at home, there's a lot of possibility of conflict with our loved ones that we are in close quarters with. So, Uma, how can we avoid frustration and fights with our loved ones in this time?
So, truly, this situation is arising in almost all households in these times. I've recently had an opportunity to discuss this with somebody who's going through this. So, my thoughts on something which helped them also. So, I would like to share just those thoughts with you. Hope it helps you. I was of the opinion that we can create two structures, one for a me time and one for together family time. So now it might sound artificial to you, but it really works, because that was the feedback that I not only got from her, but I tried myself and it works. Now, each family member gets to sketch some boundaries. So those are a very healthy boundaries, and definitely they have to be spoken with when you do that. Secondly, limit the mindless social media time. So many times, that's what you have complaints with. Those are the reason for conflicts and fights, that, it's a very mindless on the phone or on your laptop or wherever you're going. So instead of that, just try to limit that. And having some pre-COVID normal routine helps, like Harmeet just spoke about routines, and I'm totally with her, because some pre-COVID normal routine which can still continue, like maybe, you and your son would go for a walk, or you used to read some story, you can continue all these things. And we've come to see that there was so much of blame game that was happening, and that definitely was being very annoying. But remember one thing, which is that usually it's about the person, how we interpersonalize our dilemmas, our situation, our negativity. So it's usually about and how you perceive and how you react, right? So instead of being reactive, try to be proactive. That's what it is. Just different people have different needs, like, right? So conflicts can still arise irrespective of whatever, even if you're following this. And even when they arise again, now that's the time to actually set your ego aside. That's the time to zoom out to see the big picture, which is filled with compassion and love, and sit down together to ask. I mean, the whole family can sit down together to ask now, how do we resolve this? Remember, all of you are on the same team, all of you are on the same side. So uh, this is the way you actually like shift the entire conflict to come together as a team all over again. How do we resolve this? Let's find a solution. Now, if there is no solution that you can find out, you can just say, you know what, we're stuck in this particular problem, but we will get through. So that's like, they're just building up the confidence and trust and loving each other.
Some great tips. I especially loved your points about, keeping your ego aside and really looking at the blame game, and also, dedicating time for family right now. Another question. How can we reassure our loved ones who are anxious right now? How do we help others work through their feelings and be a good listener, especially for kids and family?
That's such a good question. And I, uh, so current uncertainty and anxiety that's been happening, this is, like you said, it's been causing stress. And it's also causing fear for the unknown future for most of us. So what's going to happen next? That's sort of playing on so many people's minds. So to answer your question, let me share my go-to phrases for reassurance that I keep going to. There are two phrases which are particularly my favorites, which is, this too shall pass. And the second one is, I've got this. So these two phrases have always given me reassurance, and I passed it on to reassure my loved ones. So now in today's time, we see the elderly and kids who are the most homebound. That's because they are very susceptible to the virus. So I think it's very necessary to build their well-being too, and you can do that by continuing with, again, some doable routines from before pandemic from them, because that's just going to make them feel more secure. You can engage them in online classes, which could be the fitness or music or anything that they're interested in or their passions. I mean, there's no dearth what is available online these days. You can dedicate some fun and play time. You've seen so many families doing like cooking and baking thing. There you can do that together as family. Get creative. Like, there are umpteen stories that people come and share with us how creative they have been to, get some together time. And another important point that I would like to stress, which actually is worthwhile, is please listen and share to the stories of their challenges and their success without any judgment. No judging, no opinion. Don't give any advice. Just give an ear that shows and passes on the message that I am interested in you. I understand you. I love you. Those are the messages which are extremely important. And just to add, I mean, if your partner has lost his or her job, please, you can help them in the research and staying calm. So my suggestion, smile, touch, talk, and repeat the reassurance that we're there for each other no matter what. This too shall pass.
Some great tips. Reassuring loved ones is so important right now, and just saying, reassuring them and saying that this too shall pass is very powerful.
Our next panel is self-care. In these trying times, we have to be kind and compassionate to ourselves and to others. So, Suresh sir, what are daily self-care habits one should practice, and how can you keep a check on your emotions?
So I'm sure that all of you are doing your mandatory self-care like brushing, taking bath. So you don't forget it, right? It has become a habit. So in the similar way, there are certain things that are given as instructions by experts in the current scenario by the government that you should wash your hands with soap, go out with a mask, maintain social distancing, keep yourself very clean, etc. So those are all things that has to be followed. We don't have any other go. That has to become a habit. In addition, you can plan for some preventive tips like doing a saltwater gargling in the morning and night, doing 20-30 minutes exercise, including breathing, taking the medications that are there without fail, and then listening to a soothing music in the start of the day, end of the day. The type of habit, the activity could differ from people to people, but have it as a set of activities, make it as a habit. So how do you know whether it is a habit? On a particular day, if you miss out any one of the activity, you will feel as though you have lost something. You have forgotten to do something, which is basic. That is the type of habit that we build in. Coming to the emotion check, I'm just repeating whatever I did in the anger, and I'm just bringing back what Uma was also talking about. Keep a log. That helps you a lot. Laundry list of why you got emotionally disturbed, anxiety or stress or depression, whatever you call, and you know the reason. And the reasons are personalized. So you need to work on them, come out of it. Every time you can't come to a panel and ask and then take a corrective action. So the time is now that you start thinking about what works better for me. Otherwise, advices keep flowing in, but what works better for you has to come from you within.
Some excellent tips. I loved your points about regular self-care, like listening to music, breathing, and making these things a habit. Habits are really important, and they're essential for self-care.
Our next question is for Harmeet. Harmeet, how can we stay motivated in these challenging times to do something productive or study daily?
Yeah, thank you. So everybody has their own motivations way. Some few get motivated by exercise, few get motivated by making food, few get motivated by having the right food, and few get motivated by reading a book, and few get motivated by doing meditation. So one has to understand how one's mind and body responds, and body will respond the way the mind is thinking. So it's largely motivating the mind. Yes, as Uma and Suresh said, right type of food is first most important thing. Yes, because of uncertainty and because of the lockdown, many have been able to avoid the junk food. But then inclusion of citrus foods as well as some nourishing foods in your diet will definitely improve and increase your motivation. That's one way. The other way, which we as a family actually designed a technique, which is called the ownership and the accountability technique. So what we do during lunchtime, we as a family, when we meet for lunch, we would ask everybody that what is the list of tasks that you have defined for yourself today, and we are four of us in the family, and each one has to share that list, and then asking them that what have you been able to achieve till now during the day. And then the next accountability and ownership happens during the dinner time. So we are aware that we are answerable to each of our family member, and that also keeps the motivation high. So this helps in one, yes, building a routine, working on a habit with the right type of food, and then achieving every day. So motivation is also about what do I achieve today, and that keeps it on, which also reduces anxiety, which also reduces stress, and which helps you to remain in your circle of control rather than the circle of influence. Thank you.
I completely agree. Understanding what motivates us is important for our productivity. Accountability is also, greatly beneficial for our motivation. So, moving on to our next panel, positivity. Currently, there is a lot of negativity around us. We see and hear negative news every day. It is important that we know how to find light in the darkness. So, Uma, how can one deal with this? And what tips can you give for us to develop a more positive mindset?
Yeah, like you just said, anxiety thrives on the unknown, definitely. It leads us to think about the worst case scenarios, and it will take you into the hole of sadness. So you can develop a positive mindset by using these few strategies. And the first one is something what Harmeet also just spoke about, motivation. Yes, having that drive to be motivated and being responsible for that definitely goes a long way towards building a positive mindset. And the second thing I want to talk about is surround yourself with uplifting media, uplifting people, uplifting activities, and uplifting thoughts. Now, that is what is going to promote joy, peace, and happiness. And my second tip is, however weird it may sound, but like both the other experts have been also raving about, it's about a schedule, about a routine. So setting a schedule for personal and professional goals with some relaxing breaks in between actually is sounding artificial, but if you continue doing that, it really helps in feeling productive and maintaining sanity. Setting a schedule for your personal and professional goals is actually worthwhile. And we should keep in mind, we should remember that out there are many health workers, security keepers, officials, and first responders who are risking their lives so that we can all be safe. Let's get inspired by them. There are so many inspiring stories on the social media about those common people who we didn't know before, but who actually, really risking their lives, who are going all out so that we can all be safe. Just go to read that and get inspired. And uh, I think some lots have been spoken about our obsession with media updates. We can all see how that has been leading to anxiety. So it's a big request and a suggestion that limit your obsession with the media updates. You don't need to keep checking for the news again and again. So if you as a parent is doing that, you're going to pass that on to your child, but it's so much better that as a family you decide on this, take a decision that we're going to limit that. And also be aware of spreading any vicious fake news. We need to be very mindful and careful of that, because already there is enough uncertainty, and I'm sure none of us would want to be a participant to escalate any of that. And last but not the least, I would really suggest that act your part along with the society, whether it's small efforts, whether it's little volunteering, whether it's helping an elderly person, or maybe just helping somebody with their pet, anything. Even those small efforts, they add to the impact, and they could mean something for someone right now. So right now, it's really important that you act your part, act your role. And so those are my tips. Thanks.
Definitely, looking at healthcare workers and everyone who is fighting right now puts things into perspective for us. Your points about limiting social media exposure is also a very valid and helps stop negative thoughts. What about you, Suresh, sir? How do you think we can be more positive right now?
Okay, I'm just reinforcing whatever Uma was saying. There used to be a old Tamil song sung by P.B. Srinivas. He's a famous singer from Karnataka. He has sung a lot of songs for Tamil and Telugu movies. So in one of the songs, he brings out this point. There are crores of people below your living standard, crores of them. So look at them and see that you are better off. Okay, we have a good housing, clothing, and we have three times food to eat. But there are people who have lost their loved ones now, who are the breadwinners. Okay, and as Uma said, there are people working for us day in day out in form of health workers, and there are people who have lost everything in the recent cyclone and storm. So where are we with respect to them? And there is also some comparisons always done. So many people are better than me. They have this thing, they have that thing. But look at this way: you have been blessed with so many things that are positive. So be happy about it. Try to contribute with whatever you have for the people who are not having the basics also.
Some great points. Gratitude is really important right now. It might seem like there's a lot to be sad about, but there's a lot of silver linings as well, and it's important that we count our blessings. Now, Uma, since we're dealing with social distancing and isolation, along with being physically isolated, it can also cause feelings of emotional isolation. So how can we deal with this?
So isolation can be difficult for anyone, but more so for those who are prone to anxiety and depression. So some people I have heard talk about this as a prison confinement, and some of them actually have come and told me that, oh, they got great flexible me time. So you can actually see various perspectives how people have taken this isolation. So one thing is very sure, that is that we need to have our own plan to cope with isolation. I can share a few which have been from my own experience and from the shares and the feedbacks of my coaches and clients. So you can use your online platforms like Zoom that we're using right now to have group hangouts with your family, friends, other groups, support groups. That, I mean, you can actually, celebrate all your special occasions via these online platforms. And many people have been doing so, including myself. And it actually was a lot of fun. You can watch movies, you can learn a new skill, you can take online courses to upskill for the people who always were like sort of being annoyed or frustrated that they didn't have enough time pre-corona. So now if you're isolated, you have that kind of time, you can actually upgrade your own self. Stay connected with your loved ones. You can do via daily check-ins. Now, why I say daily check-ins is because uh, you know, so many of our loved ones, like our elderly and the ones who are suffering from anxiety, who have not been able to take this very well, who feel lonely, a daily check-in with a text or a video chat or anything, it just goes a long way in their well-being. And like both Suresh and Harmeet have been saying, please focus on your health, do some good physical exercise, have nutritious food, and just to add to that, please avoid binge drinking. That is like sort of herds in so many places in isolation. You sort of have a habit of just picking up alcohol. My suggestion, sober person is more useful, people. So avoid binge drinking and sleep well. There is so much has been said currently and in the past about the importance of good sleep. You have more time now, sleep well. And spend time with your pet, or good for you if you can foster one. So that's for the pet lovers. And something which I also do regularly and request or advise others to do is practice meditation to stay calm. You can, for the newcomers, you can, there's enough material available online for guided meditations. You can actually do some guided meditations and be calm. And writing a gratitude journal definitely is very, very helpful. So whether you can write your gratitude tips or something in the night or morning, and you can even make it like a family kind of a routine, you know, at night before you go to sleep, your children or everybody, you can all write your 3 things to be grateful for. It's time to count your blessings and contribute and support to your community, like I've been saying. Donate to those food banks, or care for those who are really in need. They're the ones who really would appreciate that. So support your community in whatever way you can, and reframe your thoughts. I mean, I really am a fan of that. You can actually tell yourself, I am not isolated. I have been given this opportunity to connect with myself and build positive connections. So I'll leave you with that.
Some great points. You know, right now, all the extra time that we have can be effectively utilized to develop new skills that we have always wanted to learn. Before we move on to the next panel, we have a really interesting and good question from our Q&A chat live. So one person has asked, how can we come out of stress caused by exams in our career? You know, in general, there's a lot of pressure on people to perform really well in exams or perform highly in their career. So how do we deal with this performance pressure? Any one of the panelists who want to answer can have a go at
I think Harmeet will be a better person.
Yeah, Harmeet is one of the best in this.
So, see, exams has always been there. It's not that this is the first time because of COVID we are getting scared of the exams. And in fact, it's a blessing that for few students, a few of the exams have got cancelled. So, what is the stress about? Is it the stress that I'm not able to give the exams, or the stress is that I have to give the exams? Now, how do I give it? So, are we predicting that the exams are going to happen, which is always there? Or are we saying that, oh, I'm not able to give exams, but at this time I was prepared to give exams? So it is all looking outside. What is inside? Continue doing what you have been doing right. Looking into both in terms of your routine, your timetable, your preparation in terms of different subjects, and working on your concepts and practice. This is an ongoing thing. Pandemic has come and it will go. But your continuous learning, your own journey of growing has to go on, and focus on that part. That is more helpful. Yeah, that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you for your answer to this live question. Focusing on learning is very important. Moving on to our next panel.
Our next panel is productivity. And the challenges of the pandemic can make us feel very unproductive and very demotivated. So, Harmeet, how can people manage the stress of the post-pandemic job search, especially with all of the negative economic consequences of the pandemic?
I will here bring in the actual case of a bamboo tree. How does a bamboo tree grow? Now, if we seed in the bamboo tree, what happens? The first year we don't see any results. The second year we don't see any results. The third year we don't see any results. The fourth year also we don't see any results. The fifth year we see a small plant coming out, and in a month that plant becomes a 6-foot tree, which means a lot of work has been done on the foundation for the last 5 years. So post-pandemic is right. This is 1 year what is going to happen to the job market. But what have you been doing for the last 5 years in building your own profile, in building your own CV, in building your own skills, in building your own strengths? So this is the time when, as Uma said, we are getting a lot of me time. So in this me time, it would be a good idea to do your own SWOT analysis. Find out what has been your strengths, and so what have you achieved out of that in the last 5 or 8 or 10 years? What are the areas of improvement? And based on those, what skills ones need to build up? And this is the best time because this is the time when you can actually work on your skills. Find out those. It could be right from basics to having the right communication skill to versus developing or learning a technical skill which will enhance your CV. Take the help of a mentor, of a guide who can look into your CV and say how the CV can be improved just by presenting. And always have a you can find your your own self. So this will help you in managing that. Jobs, yes, there would be some jobs which are lost and some jobs which have emerged actually out of it. So see where you fit into that job search market. Finding the right ways to find the right job is one, but then what does your profile say? How to map that? Economies have always grown and they will grow. That's the job of the government. What is your job is to see what you can do with your own CV. Thank you.
Yeah, some great points. Analyzing our strengths and weaknesses is always useful, especially right now when we have so much time to do so. Now we will be asking our final question from productivity, and then we will be moving on to the questions we have received for the live Q&A.
So this question is for Suresh and Uma both. So Suresh, first, during the pandemic, a lot of people are forced to multitask. They need to take care of the house, they need to work, and even care for children and other loved ones. How do you manage multitasking and still find time to relax and take time for yourself?
Okay, there are some researches indicating that multitasking is bad. It affects your brain, your effectiveness, efficiency, and so on. But the concept there is that you frequently change your job within a task within a short time, like playing a jaladarangam, right? There are cups of water kept, and you keep on tapping each one of them but here, the simplest way of doing it is not more than two tasks for multitasking, and spend at least 20 minutes in each task so that you don't get into the habit of ineffectiveness and inefficiency. Coming to the multitasking, is not about parallelly doing things. I mean, you need to plan it in such a way that the time lost between sequence 1 to sequence 2 is minimum. And there are some time sequencing that we can take up. I have learned a lot from my daughter, who is having my grandson 1 year old and 6 year old. So she cleans up all the work, and she makes even the complete kitchen work is completed, and she also bakes cakes. All that is done when the children are sleeping. So in that way, she sleeps only 6 hours in a day. And there is always a give and take between the spouse. When I am on official duty, you take care of the kitchen, you take care of preparation for cooking. So when I am completed, I can take over kitchen, you can go into your office work. So there's a lot of give and take planning. So plan, share, and execute is what my suggestion for productivity. Over to Uma, you may add some points.
So, Suresh, you had some really great points on multitasking, and I think you explained it quite well. So, yes, sequence and planning really needed. Mothers and women are, I mean, multitasking is not new to them, and they really know. But yes, one thing we know for sure is that multitasking causes stress. It causes sleep deprivation. You just said she sleeps only for 6 hours. It drains energy, and sometimes it can be just on an edge of an almost burnout. And sadly, this pandemic has put most of us to experience this firsthand. I'm sure most of the women are going to be nodding their heads right now. And it's definitely challenging to find ways to relax amidst all this current chaos, but it's not impossible. Some strategies, what Suresh has said, and some you can skill yourself. You can prioritize your weekly basis on slotting the tasks as this is something which actually I've been doing, and I also advocate. It's like, you can prioritize your weekly tasks on a weekly basis. You can slot your task as important, second as urgent, third as important but not urgent, and fourth as not important and not urgent. So if you slot your tasks like that in that kind of an order, you will be very surprised that you'll be able to surely free yourself of some time for yourself, because that's something that I do diligently and I really can vouch for its success. I can suggest you to reduce your time wasters and similar distractions. If you just need to observe and you're going to find where all you're wasting time, try to eliminate those. And for the women out there, I would really like to say, please delegate tasks to others. Just drop the idea of being the perfectionist boss. Some of us really get into that habit. Delegate tasks to others. And set healthy boundaries in relationships. You can learn to say no when you think it's a forceful squeeze on your time. And there's nothing wrong in setting those kind of healthy boundaries. And to close on my reply on this question, I want to ask you a question. Did you know that originally the term multitasking was used for workings and wirings in computers and not human beings? I'll leave this as a food for thought for all of you. Thanks.
Loved your last question. I think that's really something all of us have to think about. Your points about categorizing your priorities and reducing time wasters were great. Thank you, Uma. Now we will move on to live Q&A. So someone has asked, what are the negative impacts of online classes? So I think this is a great question, both for parents and students. Right now there's a lot of online learning going on. So what do you guys say are the negative impacts and how can we combat them? Anyone who wants to answer can.
So if I may just go ahead before others can pitch in, I do not want to just say something as negative or positive. Let's not slot into that. The reason that's all this is happening right now is because we are sort of homebound. Most of us, we are not doing our regular stuff of going to college, school, office, out, shopping. Those things are suddenly missing, and everything is sort of like limited to a screen. So yes, there are people who go out for those classes for the human interaction that it has to offer, to really go and engage in those conversations, to go build your connections out there. And that is something we all keep looking forward to. And to be out of your environment, which is your home, and that gives you another environment to really get foster your happy thoughts in. So yes, online classes have restricted all this. So it's as it is really new and still in a very nascent stage, and we are all trying to get used to it. I'm sure it would be feeling negative. Yes, we all thrive on human interaction. So yes, it is feeling negative right now. But like I keep saying, this too shall pass and it's a temporary phase. But right now we need to learn to manage ourselves in this little screen and this little window that we have with us. Oh, please go ahead, Harmeet or Suresh.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Amit.
No, continue, Suresh.
Okay, online classes, are the only way out now. So looking at the negative part, we don't have the feel of it. The human touch, not able to see the body languages, not able to engage in group activities. In fact, in one of the sessions, we tried that, but that was consuming a lot of time. They have to get into another classroom mode, and where I don't have a connection, bringing them back was a problem. But we started interacting more by using chat. Whatever they want to answer, so I send a response. The response I expect within 30 seconds, and then I keep watching whether they are responding or not. So the negative part is the feel is not there, the human touch. But this is the way we have now. We can't do anything else.
Just add on to that, just one point. online classes, or for that matter, anything that something new comes up, since we are not prepared for it, there we talk in terms of having a positive or a negative impact. But now it's been 3 months. The more preparedness we have, we know how to utilize that resource to the most effective manner. So, yeah, in the first initial month, there was a problem, but now I think everybody is trying to learn the right way of doing it. And that's going to be the future.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for answering this live question. Now we will be moving on to another question that has actually been asked twice. I think it's a very important one. How can we deal with overthinking? Constantly thinking about the future. Why do you think people overthink so much? And how can we cope? How can we combat overthinking?
So, overthinking is nothing more than conversations in your head. It is something what psychologists keep saying. It's your own self mental interrogation. So it's a mental trap that we set for ourselves. So, and research has actually shown us that on an average, a human being thinks more than 50,000 thoughts, and 50% of them are negative. So what an overthinker usually does is starts latching on to those negative thoughts, and he starts again assuming. He gets into an anxiety and a worry cycle, and he or she forms a worry loop, or there is a absolute loop that keeps going on. So what an overthinker usually does is go direct head on engage with those thoughts without even actually classifying them as positive, negative, as something which is really likely to happen. So there isn't anything like that going on, and they feel so drained and fatigued during this exercise. And that's what you'll see. Most of them will be feeling very drained and fatigued because they're in their head most of the time. So some strategies to cope with it, very basic. First, please disengage with those thoughts. Just let them come, and just accept that they're here. Let them come and go. You don't need to engage with those negative thoughts. Once you're doing that, you will actually start feeling that there is no, don't associate. So there is no association there. Just dissociate yourself from that. It's not sound when I say it sounds easy, but I'm sure with practice and skill, it definitely becomes easy too. So you really need to be mindful of your thought. And strangely, most of the overthinkers know they overthink. So it's a good thing to deliberate when it is a very life-threatening issue or survival issue, and you need to really deliberate at something like, life-altering stuff. But rest of the time, you're just doing nothing but staying in your head. So you need to actually step out of it. So this is one very big coping skill to actually really do, to just disengage, disassociate, just let them just go. You accept that they're coming, and yeah, you can actually start putting on a sign. When you say, you can actually mentally tell yourself, stop, go away, those kind of self-talk. You see what kind of self-talk you're doing. So those kind of self-talks really, really help you when you are overthinking. So don't get into that mental trap. You will have to learn to get out. It's not healthy. It's not helpful. It doesn't let you evolve. It doesn't let you grow. It doesn't give you peace, joy. So yeah, so that's my most important tip for the day. Harmeet.
Thank you, Uma. I loved your point about disengaging with overwhelming thoughts. Simply observing thoughts can really help us dissociate with them. So with this, we come to a close of our live Q&A. Can the panelists please give any closing remarks that you have?
Suresh, would you like to go first?
Yes. So I always believe in this formula. Know the reasons first, work on it personally. If you are not able to solve, then go to the experts with the background information. Otherwise, the first round itself with the expert going there doesn't help. It's like going to a doctor. They always keep looking at what symptoms you have undergone. So when you have that clarity, solving any problem, could it be stress or any solution, overthinking, whatever be the anxiety that you are in, you can easily overcome. So start practicing that and make it as a habit.
Thank you, Suresh sir. Harmeet ma'am, would you like to give your closing remarks?
So I think one mantra which you can follow is, what have you done today to make yourself feel proud? So when you follow this every day, you will be doing an act in different areas of your life which you want to make yourself feel proud about. You want to love yourself. It could be helping someone, it could be learning a skill, it could be just hugging your family member for that love and that support that is required, or it could be just being a calm listener to someone who wants that. So just follow that mantra and keep growing. Thank you.
Uma, your closing remarks? Thank you, Harmeet.
Yeah, so my closing thoughts are, however uncertain this present and the future we seem right now, we still need to remind ourselves that we are not alone in this. The entire world is going through the same grief. And it's always helpful to be realistically optimistic and cultivate and nurture resilience, courage, compassion, and hope. And like I said before, let's all act our parts as being human and believe in the natural law of this too shall pass. Thank you so much.
With this, we come to an end to the webinar. Thank you everyone for participating. And for the certificate of attendance, you can contact us at the email that we have put in the chat box right now. Over to Aaryani for our closing remarks.
So, Kashish and I think that this was such a productive session. We really loved the questions that all of you asked. Thank you so much for attending. And thank you, panelists. You guys have offered invaluable insights. Your answers have been so detailed and also embedded with personal anecdotes. So thank you, everyone. With this, we're closing the webinar.
Thank you so much, Aaryani and Kashish, and thank you to all participants.
Thank you to the project.
Thank you.
Project Let's Talk team.
Oh, and watch out for more webinars like this. We have some very exciting things coming up soon, everyone. Thank you.
Finally, we will be uploading this to our project's YouTube channel, so watch out for that as well. We will be sending the link.